Hey, just check to make sure my audio still works. I think so. Hey, what's up, you dad? So, I am basically just going through what it takes to build a retro capture PC. I'll be checking the chat the whole time. This is definitely not going to be a fun, exciting one like yesterday, but I'm hoping that it'll be pretty informative for people. Maybe even I could add chapter marks at some point in the future. But there's a couple of goals for this one. I have to do two operating systems, 10 and 7, which is kind of going to be interesting. Oh, thanks, the Pask. Yeah, the chapters are probably going to be something I'll add in a couple of days because this is going to be a pretty crazy week. So I'm concentrating on just getting this done to make sure I can get this out for Tito because I love his channel and I want to make sure that he gets the most pimped out equipment possible. Sable, Sable, Vista support. Hey Tommy, thanks for coming by. So power. If anybody has any questions about anything I'm doing, by all means, just fire away, and I'll try to see everything going on in the chat. And I'll also be switching back and forth between views here, because I do have the whole PC setup, but I don't want to show this yet because there's going to be at least 1 or 2 points where we have to click and wait for a while. So I figure I'll go over the hardware then. And these are all kind of based on my I mean, my whole life's experience building and tweaking computers. But if anybody has any other suggestions, jump on in. You know, uh, I don't have an ego about that. If you have a better idea than me, by all means, fire away. Right now, so I guess I'll start with where we're at right now. I have Windows 10 installed and working. It is on an SSD and it is registered. Black Jam Alex, I will not only am I doing a Linux video, there's going to be a whole thing about that coming up soon. I'm very excited about that. Um, so looks like everything's all good. This is a Xeon workstation, 48 gigs of RAM. So this sucker's powerful. So let's see what else we got here. It is just kind of funny to see too how things have changed over the years because I anybody that's been doing Windows for a long time knows all of the different tricks, and then every time you go to change something on a even in Windows 10, every time they put a new update to it, they move where things are, which kind of drives me insane. But advanced system settings, Mr. Silent Vid. All right, then this is going to be very relevant to you in a few moments. So this adjust for best performance thing, if you have a graphics card, a good graphics card, you might not need that at all. But I just, when you're building something that's supposed to be performance focused, I don't really care about UI enhancements. Okay, check the device manager, make sure there's nothing in here. Nope, that's all good as well. Don't really need any of that. All right, so let me fire up USB stick. Start installing programs. Let's see what else we can get. Show task view. Get all this crap out of here. News and interest. Turn off. Hidden. All right, there we go. OneDrive. We can just get rid of that. So this already has all the Windows updates as of today, and it's a legal registered version of Windows 10. So that's all the basics of it. And now I'm just going to be loading up the software that I always think is a good fit for this stuff. The capture card I'm putting in Tito's machine is a DataPath Vision E2S. So it's the dual input one. And I'll be showing that in a very quick moment as well, because there's an order in which you need to install these things. Anybody that's used DataPath cards knows the curse of the DataPath card. They're amazing, but getting them working in your computer can often be a pain. And you could have it working for months, and then one day your computer will boot with a BIOS error. You gotta pop the card out, reboot it, shut it down, and then pop the card back in. But it's worth it. Okay, so the one thing that I always like to do is use portable software wherever possible. Because when you install software, it very often changes things in the registry, changes associations, but when you use portable software, it's just software that sits on your C drive. There's nothing to it. So, okay, all that should be good. We'll check these in a second, and let me just get the actual software installed. Majorel cards are very good, but I go over the audio capture in this as well, which you'll be able to see. So I'm going to install the DataPath driver without the card in it. That'll probably be a help on first boot. Tommy, if you've been looking for a capture card that plays nice with the OSSC, I actually did a video on that a couple years ago. And it also depends what mode that you're using. Okay, I guess I can't install the DataPath driver yet. So if you're using 1080p 5x, you're going to have some compatibility issues. But if you're using 1080p 4x or 480p especially, it should work with a lot more. And don't forget, if you're streaming, then you can just use the OBS window to do a sharp scale. And if you're capturing, it doesn't matter because you could just capture or just edit in post. Image burn, all right. These are just basic tools that don't really take up any memory or anything. Either space or RAM. And just to show you, the reason I want to make sure image burn is installed is while this looks like a beat old CD-ROM drive, and it is, it kind of sticks. You got to wiggle it in order for it to eject properly. This is one of these Plextor drives that's known to be a really, really good drive for burning. So I think, here's the thing. I think I could just, there was a trick to it. I think the trick was to press the button and twist the thing there, but it's been a while. Yeah, that was that. Press the button, wait to hear the click, move the gear. But this used to be in an enclosure, but having it inside with SATA is better. But that's how you can get some really good CDR copies of whatever else that you would need. Hey, what's up, Circuit? Yeah, why not? Run image burn. Out your data. What a pain in the ass. That's why no one uses you. Okay, image burn. How helpful would it be if you use your laptop with an external GPU for capture and 1080 Ti? I've never used external GPUs on laptops. Oh, thanks very much, Tommy. That's nice of you. AverMedia Live Gamer HD is a decent one, and I think 2X does work, so you don't really need to upgrade. Let's see what else we got. SD card formatter, that's just making things easier because you know you're gonna format something at some point. Lagareth, this is another codec I use often for capture. It's old and outdated, but if you're using anything smaller than 4K, it should be more than enough. IO bit unlocker is a fun one. You ever try to delete a program and it just won't delete? Or not even a program, just like a file or something. You could do it here, or you could just like right click and hit IO bit unlocker, and then it'll show you this file's not locked. Sometimes it is though, so you could unlock and delete. And then there you go. Uh-oh, I think I did. Did I just delete the exe? I meant to delete the shortcut. That's some funny shit. Oh, that's funny. All right, I'll just reinstall it. Oh man, that's funny. Well, that's an easy one though. Not a big deal. Unless I just crashed it, but also not a problem because I got to shut it down to install that card again anyway. Hey, what's up, Chris? All right, so I'm just going to shut this sucker down, and we'll install the data path vision card, and then we'll go back to doing the other stuff after that. Okay. Unplug. I always hit power a couple of times after unplugging. Sometimes you watch it discharge. And we're probably going to have to take this out again in a bit, but that is the DataPath Vision E2S. This is one of the best capture cards ever for up to 1440p. But yeah, make sure I'm lined up. Okay. While that's booting, I'm going to grab my Mister to do a test capture. All right, let's see how the computer looks. Well, we booted. That's a good sign. This is a Xeon CPU, a very, very fast Xeon. This was my main machine for a while before I upgraded, but the one thing that this machine will not do is 4K 60 lossless. You need much, much faster SSDs for that. You need the new PCI Express 4.0 ones for that. So it's, there you go. It's the Xeon E5 2660 version 3, 2.6 gigahertz. Oh, it must not have detected it on boot. Interesting. Well, nothing another reboot won't fix. It's in there in solid, so. All right, let's go back to IOBit Unlocker and just continue from there. Well, there we go. Lesson learned. First time it's ever happened with IOBit. That's pretty funny, though. So, these. Of course, 7-zip. Everybody needs this. This is probably the best zipping program ever. And that's the 7-zip. Here we go. Now, easily deal with all archives that way. This is for the audio card. This is the M Audio Delta. And that is one of the things we're going to be demoing in a few moments after I get Windows 10 set up, which should be pretty quick. Ooh, what the heck just happened? Ooh, okay. So, let's switch back to this view. This is very common. It's the data path card and everything else. So let me take this out. So that's the culprit, the M Audio card, but let's just reboot without these and try to put them back one at a time. This is very, very common when you're using this weird equipment, and I actually have backups of both of those, so if something happened to either, this will still be a completed project. All right, let's reboot this sucker. Is there any GPU included? Yes, a 1070. I'll show that in a second as well. Just get this booted. Just wanted to check something on the USB stick. Okay. Goldwave is for working with MDFourier files. And that's for Windows 7. Did I just install the wrong version? 570, I did install the wrong version. Oops, that's the Windows 7 one. Yeah, Steven, did they actually release the new Threadripper yet, or is that still for September or something like that? Because that's one of the ones I was going to look into for crazy 4K or even 8K stuff. There we go. This is the version for Windows 10. Okay. Reference files. I'll just drop these here too. And the only other thing I'm going to do is create links to the portable software. So portable. Ah, so they already released the Threadripper. It's the Ryzen stuff that's September. Okay. So here's something that I've learned the hard way quite a few times. Um, I just created a shortcut to this, and there's been a few times where I thought, okay, well, I'm using a portable version of OBS. So let me mess with all my settings. Let me just right click, hit copy, and then hit paste, and then just rename it a different one. But if you still have that shortcut, because I would keep the shortcuts inside this directory usually. So if you copy the whole thing and you click on the same shortcut, it's going to go back to the original. So let that be a lesson to you. That's the FAT32 formatter, which is very handy. And last but certainly not least, virtual dub. All right. And let's reboot again, or shut down and try installing those cards again, one at a time. I'll start with, I guess I'll start with the data path because it could be problematic. Oh, fuchsia, awesome. Well, then I'm really glad you're watching this now because this is exactly what you're going to be going through in a bit. And you're going to get frustrated, and at some point you're going to go, you know what, it's not working, and then all of a sudden it's going to be working. Because don't forget, these were designed to be in very specific, um, like digital signage type environments. So not surprising at all that these won't work on just random PCs you throw it all in. Yeah, Steven, the reason I was looking to that platform was more lanes than Intel offers, but on top of that, because someone said it would be offering multiple PCIe 4 SSD slots, the NVMe's. I don't know if that was true, but that would be very helpful for the crazy capture stuff that I'm going to be doing soon. Okay. Is it detecting the card or is it not? Okay, I think that means it's probably detecting the card now. So let's try installing this again. No, weird. Huh. All right. Well, let me power this sucker down and try just the M audio in, and I also have backups of both. Hey, Pepe, what beers do I have? I have gonna have later on. I have one more Smittix left, so that's gonna be tonight. But I'm looking forward to trying different ones. I bought some Almaza beer for when Ronnie comes, Lebanese beer. So I think that'll be fun to drink with Ronnie. That's this was gonna be a pretty crazy week, so I'm not sure how much beer I'll be able to actually drink, but we'll see. Stefan, I keep calling you Steven. I'm sorry, Stefan. Um, I wonder. So you said some of them have PCIe 5 M2 and some just have one PCIe 5 and one PCIe 4. That would also be totally fine. In fact, that would be really awesome. The one question I always have is where to put the OS drive because it would make sense, of course, that you would put the OS drive on the fastest. However, what if you're doing 4K 60 on HDR lossless capture? You're going to need the absolute fastest, not just want. So you might I think in that scenario I might put the OS on the PCIe 4, which is still, you know, 8 gigabits a second or something like that, and the capture drive on the PCIe 5. The Rothaus beer from Germany. I love German beer, so if I could get it here, you bet I'll try it. Okay, so we see it. So let's try installing the software, and if that doesn't work, there might have been something I was doing in the BIOS that I don't remember. It's been a while since I powered this one on. So where was that? Delta. Here we go. Is 36 inches too much CRT for one person? It's definitely too much for one person to carry, unless you're a giant, unless you're 6'8" and have really long arms, because that's pretty much the limitation. That was the hardest thing for me. Wasn't the weight; it's that I couldn't get my arms around it to pick it up. Because I mean, like this was where the D32 was, and I'm not a small guy, but getting my arms around that's way harder. So that you're basically lifting with your forearms, not your whole body. So yeah, try to get your 36-inch with with help. Okay. We should see the icon down here if it all loaded properly. Even with a lightning fast CPU, it always takes forever to boot. All right. So beautiful. M Audio Delta right here. No, Pepe, I'd never mind talking about beer. I'm obviously a fan, so I'm going to increase the buffer size because lower buffer is what you really need for recording music, but for capturing, it doesn't matter at all. And I'm going to jack this up to, you know what, put it at the limit, 192. And now I'm just going to double check the sound settings. Line 2. Sound control panel. I think that's just you, Daniel. This is basically what all of these HP workstations looked like for all of the 2000s. Which would make sense if you weren't in an environment that used HP workstations. So, all right, 2-channel, 24-bit, 192K. Excellent. Let's just double check on the recording side. Should be the same. Listen. Levels. Cool. Okay. So, let's power down again and try my second card. And worst comes to worst, if I have to only give Tito a single input one, I don't think he'll be too upset. Was not expecting to have to dig up an extra card, so give me a second. All right, we're gonna try a single. One thing with this workstation, Voltar has the exact same one, and he and I have amazing performance out of this with random BIOS related compatibility issues. The kicker was one random it was a Hauppauge S video and composite capture card, which I don't need, but it's really good to have an extra one of, and this one just won't work with it. Oh, hold on. Gotta get all in there. Oh, thanks, Circuit. Okay. Okay. Let's cross our fingers. Tech, what's up, dude? Tech's one of the ones that helped me learn all of the quirks around these data path cards and capture. He's OG with this stuff. Okay, no crash in the BIOS. That's always good. And let's see what we got. Should be like a multimedia controller or something. Pepe, yeah, I bought this computer just under 500 bucks a couple years ago. And then I added more RAM. I mean, it was basically stripped. I added the extra RAM, I added the graphics card, I added the SSDs. There was nothing in here. That's the data path card. I'm pretty sure that's what that is. So let's load this sucker up. Getting it running in Windows 10. So I'll start letting on why we're doing two OSs here. You need one is going to be for like daily stuff. So you know you want to do a live stream. You want to check your email, whatever else. The Windows 10. I'm actually a big fan of Windows 10. I think it's great, but when you start to do capture, the video side is okay. Yeah, weird. But I guess I'll just go ahead and show on the audio side. So let me flip this over. All right, tech. Well, good timing. So, what we're doing right now is we're going to do a loopback test with the M Audio. Now, I'm not even going to bother to do the analog one because I don't think we'd need to. I think I'm just going to use a shielded cable to go to the in and out loopback of the M Audio digital input. So theoretically, this should have zero noise for MDFourier. So let me just fire the sucker up. So yeah, the drive over here is a Plex door for burning. We got dual SSDs. One is unplugged. I'll get to that in a minute. And then we're going to have the M Audio card, a data path vision, and this Gigabyte 1070 graphics card. 48 gigs of RAM, Xeon CPU, and I think there's an extra optical drive it came with that I'll never use. All right. Oh yeah, we should set the time zone. Never sets automatically the first time for me. Never. All right, so that's working. And so MDFourier reference files. This is for the equipment loopback test. So what I'm going to do is first make sure that this file opens with the correct player. Did I not put that on here? Wow, that's embarrassing. Okay, let me grab that real quick. Windows Media Player Classic Home Cinema is what we've found to do a great playback of video and audio files. Let me get that in here. So weird, I wouldn't have had that on. It's like one of my favorite ones to always use. Okay. Okay. Very handy having both computers right next to each other. That usually a couple feet apart, but that's why I put all my stuff on wheels. Software, MPC. Did it not copy? Copy. All right, let's try this again. Open with. Okay, cool. Stop. Now we're going to go into Gold Wave. And I've showed this a lot before, so just in the interest of not boring everybody to death, I'm going to skim through this really quickly. But this is my favorite program for doing the MDFourier stuff because it works, at least in Windows, it works exactly how I would expect it to. Except, definitely forgot one thing. We got to change the default output to the digital one. And I'll just do that too since I'm here. That doesn't really matter. But the default playback is how I know that it's playing through MPC. So open this up here. Okay, so that quality. Why is it that quality? Should be at 192, 1024. Playback is there. Maybe I have to set this. External. That's funny. No, they're both. Well, let me try it anyway and see what happens. We'll know pretty quickly how bad off it would be. So, new stereo 192, make it a minute long. And we should just be able to play the sample file. And as soon as we hit play, it should play through the digital output and into this. So I'm going to start recording here. Okay, we probably need a reboot or something. So let me just do that real quick. Dr. Lilo, having hidden file extensions on in File Explorer is triggering. Yeah, I usually turn those off. That must have been on my list of stuff that I forgot. And love it. All right, so there's got to be something going on uh, with the BIOS on this thing. So let's take a look and see what we can do. BIOS setup. Fuchsia, no, I haven't done anything on it yet, but that's kind of what we're working on right now. Enable, beautiful, okay. Disable fast boot. Since we're using SSDs, no post delay, but this right here, if you're running an unraid server, you might want to add at least 20 seconds. I learned that the hard way because you could have it running fine for months and then you do one reboot and one of the drives doesn't come up within 1 second and that's it. So, I mean, it doesn't kill your unraid server, but then you have to rebuild it. Enable, okay. SATA, HCI, yep. We disabled HD audio because we're using the M audio card, which is far better. I don't know what that is. Okay. I'm basically looking for anything that could be affecting the PCI Express lanes. John, because it was an HP workstation. I'm not being sarcastic. It's as easy as it is. Pepe, I have tried soft raids, and other than the software unraid, if you're talking about the Windows one, I've never had good luck with it. Actually, for after power loss, since this isn't a server, I like to leave that off. What's this one? Okay, maybe this is what we need. Ooh, PCIe performance mode enable. Oh, well, runtime power management and idle power doesn't mean anything, but turbo mode seems to be something that might be helpful. Let's check if there's any other options, and then go back to that. Auto. So I believe this one is going to be the one for the data path. Yeah, that's got to be it. I mean, I think I could probably leave all that alone. I've had bad experiences with hardware raids as well. It's all about the environment that you're in. So if you're in a corporate environment where one of your RAID backups is just one of many, then whatever, it's awesome. If it breaks, who cares? You just grab one of your other ones, swap the drive out. But in a home environment, that's where it's a little weird for me. Because unless you have two backups, if your controller dies, you're screwed. Back to main and save and exit. Okay, what do we got? So the one thing that I like a lot about Unraid, the software program Unraid, is that all of the drives can be read in any Linux computer. So it's not like, oh, well, I guess whatever we just said fixed it. I'd like to try the turbo mode again, but we'll come back to that after the next reboot. But that's one of the things, because if your hardware RAID controller dies, you can't read those drives anywhere, which in a corporate environment doesn't mean shit. But in it's definitely one of those things where if you're at home, it's nice to know that you won't lose all of your data. Ah, thanks so much, Doc Christian. I wanted to warn everybody this was kind of more of a boring stream, but if you're into this stuff, I guess it not necessarily. So that's so weird. It shouldn't. Well, it's just another quirk of Windows 10. But once we get the data path working, me then I'll switch over anyway. But external. Weird. All right. Well, let's work on the data path and go from there. Thanks, Pepe. Here we go. All right. I think one of the reasons that the data path cards have so much trouble is because this is actually a PCI X card with PCI X to PCIe converter built into it. So I think that's another reason it drives things crazy. Ah, Doc Christian has an A plus and a Sec plus, so that makes sense. Well, while we're waiting for this thing to install, let me also put a link to the MDFourier files on the desktop. Perfect. .NET Framework. I did have the files in my software folder, but those are the ones I downloaded specifically for Windows 7, which you'll see in a minute. No, cancel. I think I should have said no, because it's still installing the other thing. All right, good, 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 good. Oh, oops. Well, let me see if I have it here. Dex. All right. Well, I'm going to try a reboot, and I also just want to try uh, changing that one BIOS setting back. Will there be an explanation video for this PC? I think that's kind of what I'm doing. But if you have any specific questions, please let me know. So if the drivers are gray, that means it's not being detected in the BIOS, correct? So let me... This is PCIe performance mode, disable. It's so weird that they're tied together like that, but... Alright. Do we error out in the BIOS, or does it work? So far, so good. I've done these before where I've spent hours on it, and then all of a sudden, at the final reboot, right before I do a Clonezilla backup, I get the blue screen or I get the BIOS error screen. It's like, no. So is that installed or is it not? All right, Vision window. Okay, let me plug this in. Plug this in. Nothing on screen, huh? Oh, there we go. Beautiful. So Okay, so let's check this out here. Input setting shows that it's 1920 by 2080 by 1080 by 2080. Jeez. All right, so this is working. So now let's check out Virtual Dub. And the problem was one of those BIOS settings. Capture AVI. We got to set the file to stick it right on the desktop to make it easier. So device, data path vision E1S. We might switch it to the 2S at some point. Capture pin, RGB, 1920 by 1080. I guess let me oh, and before I freak out all my fellow nerds here. Options. Show everything. Don't hide shit. If you thought you needed to hide it, it shouldn't be there in the first place. We'll do Lagarith just cause. Audio, we'll leave that there. I'll show you why later. Preview pin. Not sure why this isn't working, but let's give it a few more tries here. Top-down bitmap. All right, well, now you're all going to witness something kind of embarrassing that I end up doing all the time. Daniel, yeah, you can preview in both. However, once you start getting to 1080p and above, now you're running up against the bandwidth of the card. So that's when you're going to want to worry about things like closing it before you start. AVI, device, yes. Video capture pin, we already did that. Top-down bitmap, okay. Capture pin, 59.9. Top-down bitmap. Video preview. Oh, you know what? I might be using... Oh, no, it's working. I just needed a moment. Steven. Interesting that it's doing that. I was using Virtual Dub 2 though, so let's see. Top down on the preview side as well. Maybe that'll be... Impression video. Okay, so let me grab the other VDub 2 just in case. The A Gamer, I didn't change the resolution. Let me double check. Thank you for that, by the way. Preview pin 1920 by 1080. We could try RGB 24. Let me do no display for this. RGB 24. It's 1920 by 1080. And let's also double check capture filter. Yep. Sometimes I get a flip capture vertically. Maybe that'll help. Yeah, weird. Okay, well, no problem. We got VDub 2 now. Let's try that instead. I'm gonna minimize this so I don't give everybody epileptic seizures while watching. And we don't need that anymore. Get done with software. Yeah, I've set this up on so many different computers, and it's always like this. Always. It's never a one-shot deal. Two. No. Wrong one. There we go. Okay. Capture file. Test. E1S. Preview pin. Impression. No conversion required on output. Excellent. Let's see what happens if I just hit record. Unable to start video capture. Interesting. Fushi, yeah, I mean, basically, it's basically what's happening. Maybe it's something with the .NET framework? I don't know. Well, anyway, that is just the Windows 10 side. And I think while we're going to go back and fix that up a little bit, now it's time for the Windows 7 side of things. I just realized I forgot my disk, so let me grab that. So you're all seeing firsthand why Windows 10 is not a reliable operating system for stuff like analysis. And I still like it a lot. There is a problem though. There's actually multiple issues with Windows 10, including video output and stuff like that for people doing video analysis on stuff. And at the moment, one of the unfortunate issues is that you have to use Windows 7. However, there are a few pretty damn amazing people out there who are working on a Linux build to solve all of these issues for us. So while I'm going to be setting up Windows 7, I actually think at some point, hopefully by the end of the year, Tito is going to be installing a version of Linux on top of this. So like a dual boot on the second drive. So one of the things that I'm going to do just to show everybody here, here's just an old school paranoia thing. I am unplugging the Windows 10 drive because I do not want to accidentally mess anything up. So only the Windows 7 drive is going to be plugged in right now. And switch this back over. Menu, Flex door. Yeah, Linux is definitely happening. And what's holding it back is I don't want a guide to be like this. Like, I'm enjoying this live stream, I'm enjoying hanging out with all of you, but I legit started working on a video of how to build a capture PC, and it was going to be almost as long as this because I would have to explain all of the quirks of 10 and then why you want 7 too. And then you have to explain 10 because then you'd get all the know-it-all IT people. It's like, oh, you can't use 7, there's security issues. Like, you have to. If you think there's a security issue, unplug the network cable while you're using it. Ian, while I am a fan of XP, what you're about to see in 7 proves that it does more than it really works well for all of this stuff. Um, but not as well as Linux would soon enough. We gotta wait for that. As soon as I get to the part where Windows is just boringly doing its thing, I'll check out some more hardware, and any questions in the chat, definitely that would be the time. All right. Install. The girl. Yes, I'm gonna leave this up. This is I mean this with love, but this is one of the reasons why I'm always going to be a failed YouTuber, never caught in the algorithm, because I think that a few people would find this handy, and I think a lot of people would really enjoy the Virtual Boy stream from yesterday. And if I was a good YouTuber, I would have two channels, one for the nerdy stuff and one for the more general. And that's not how I roll. I have a feeling if you come here for Virtual Boy, there's a good chance you might be interested in how to build a retro capture PC. So, yeah. Daniel used to use Linux exclusively like 20 years ago, and they got tired of updates randomly breaking everything, and then just didn't have time to go fix everything every month. That's so funny. That's exactly what I would say about Windows 10. um, 98 has the best startup sound. That is true. UEFI also puts a monkey wrench in many devices with BIOS firmware. Usually they want to write their firmware into memory at odd places that UEFI doesn't support. True, and in fact, the computer that I'm streaming on right now, I had a nightmare time getting everything installed, including Thunderbolt, and I had to turn off some security options because you can't have Thunderbolt with the default security options. It's crazy. Well, Doc Christian, check out the stream from yesterday. It's basically all of the really awesome accessories and homebrew you could do today with some demos. And I probably should have turned that into a high production video like the N64 one that I did, but I don't have an extra week to do that. So I asked Kevin to help and he jumped right on in. What I always thought was funny about this was it says expanding files and it's going to go in chunks. So you'll see 1%, 2%, 20%, 40%. So yeah, Pepe. I mean, I'm trying to not exaggerate when I say this, but I think I've lost a at least a full work week's worth of time on this new i9 PC, the one I'm streaming on now, because of updates, BIOS changes, Asus not having it not having the BIOS set up correctly from the factory when the motherboard was shipped. They're terrible customer support. So yeah, it stinks. That's why I kind of like. One of the things I'll show at the very end of this is creating a backup so that once we get these things running and configured, we could always go back. One of the interesting things about being an old guy is that I've used all of them. I remember only having DOS 311. What was it? 256 or something. It's the one for the Tandy computers. That was our first computer in BASIC on a TRS-80. And then that was it. Windows 3.1 on I think it was a 386, and then all of them since. No, it's all good, Daniel. It's part of it's unfortunately part of what needs to be done. But that's one of the things that some friends of mine and I are trying to solve, where we could say, hey, here is the exact configuration we have, and here's this, this new software config. Buy the exact same stuff and it'll work for you. Almost there. The one of the updates that we may or may not have to do actually takes longer than this, and that'll be the one where I'll switch to the different view and kind of show off the hardware as it's doing its thing, but that's the giant pain in the ass one. And on top of that, there were a couple of different versions of it, and I used one and it worked fine. And then I switched to the second version, and it would crash everything. It wouldn't boot in any VMs on RAID. It wouldn't, and it was even giving issues booting the real computer. So I had to erase Windows XP and start again. And then it said there's another update pack available, and that's the one I have now. That one seemed to work. Hey, Rotorcone, I am building a retro capture PC. Actually, I shouldn't say that. This is not a retro capture PC. It's a PC, a beefy ass Xeon that could capture everything from direct RGB or component 240p all the way up to 1440p from the Mister, which we will demonstrate probably in Windows 7, and then I'll go back and tweak 10 a little bit more. Windows 3.0 was your first version. I think it must have been 3.11 for workgroups on mine. Must have been, because that's what everybody was using then. It's funny, this is not the first time I've had to install this on stream. I was hanging out with Artemio a while back and ended up having to reinstall Windows on stream right there in order to do the MDFourier analysis. But luckily, we just kind of hung out for a little bit and kind of made it fun. Oh, you're from Romania? So is a bunch of my family. See? Interesting. Surprise link down error. On slot 5, that's the data path again, and that's the second one. So maybe we could go in and actually, you know what? I should be pulling that data path card back out for this Windows for the Windows 7 build. Let me do that real quick. Everything else could stay in, but you definitely want the OS up and running first before installing the data path card. So all right. Yeah, Danielle, the M Audio card is going to go into this machine for Tito. I'm using the Motu M4, and I'm still trying to figure out a good way to capture digital audio on over USB. The card that you have works well, but the GUI is just a massive pain in the ass. I've bugged Motu a couple of times, and I keep asking him to make like the M6, the same exact thing, but with, oh geez, okay, the same exact thing but with digital inputs and outputs as well. Dot Christian, yeah, installing Windows with floppies was way shittier than this. That was just hours of my life staring at the stupid progress bar, hoping for the best. If this crashes again, I'll go change that one setting back into the BIOS to see if that does it. Yep. Yep. All right. Well, back into the BIOS, change that setting, and then reinstall Windows again. Hey, retroactive. Okay. So that was BIOS setup, advanced, performance, enable. Yeah. All right. Let's see if that fixed everything. Save changes and exit, and now we'll do Windows again. Started PC on DOS 422. Nice. You'll all notice that after making a BIOS change, it takes a lot longer for the post to start. That's probably because it's reconfiguring. Boot menu, Plex Store. Here we go again. It's another reason I guess I'm kind of glad I'm doing this as a live stream, because if I had just spent the hours to make the fancier video about this, I don't know if I could have gotten across that this is what you're supposed to expect. Because you're mixing hardware. You know, the data path card and the M audio card were made long before this Xeon workstation was ever made. So it's and you know, we got the Gigabyte 1070 graphics card, and so we're really kind of forcing, you know, round peg into a square hole here. I forgot. I just showed the Xeon on camera, and I completely forgot which one it was. It's a E. I forgot. Sorry, I'll bring it up when Windows comes up. I think the floppy version of Windows 95 are the ones that didn't require a product key, though. And I absolutely remember that was a big thing. Like, you have to enter a product key. Well, what happens if people lose their product key? Like, people were freaking out about that. So, kind of funny. Do I know much about the EVGA XR1 light capture card? I don't know anything about it, but I am a skeptical nerd. It is my job to be paranoid, and so I would say, unless somebody in the community's tested it, be skeptical. Because a lot of these things work really, really well until you try to do things like lossless capture or any kind of weirdness. And you know, or if you don't need that stuff, who cares, right? But if you don't need that stuff, I would recommend just getting the cheapest capture card out there that's compatible with your rig. Oh, Retroactive has it. Oh, you want to spread some knowledge of it then, please? They suggest it way over something like an Elgato. Yeah, I've never had good luck with Elgato capture cards. Never. The other thing I forgot to show when we were on Windows 10 is another trick. Um, I will show it, but I'll talk more about it now, just to fill the time while we're waiting. But there's a program called Driver Down, and you load it up, and it shows you every driver that's on your PC. And you can select all of them, third party, whatever it else, but you could basically export those to a folder. And this is really great if you think someday you might, like if I would do this as well as do a Clonezilla backup, because now you have two ways to restore everything. But the other thing that you need to do is a lot of modern computers do not have a full set of Windows 7 drivers. So you could take some of them from Windows 10, not all, but some. Ian, I agree and disagree. So I agree that if capture is important to you, if you're doing something like comparison shots or you're presenting a new game or product, do not cheap out. However, if your goal is to stream your game with a couple of your buddies, have a couple beers, and just kind of hang out, just buy the cheapest capture card you can. That $18 can't link set is fine. Set your output to 480p. You're good to go. It's not great, but it's not bad. Oh, Pepe, thanks so much for the super chat. I really appreciate it. I wasn't sure how many people were going to show up today. I was going to say maybe like, well, I'll take all the super chat money and apply that towards this because I spent quite a bit on this PC, but I want to give it to Tito for half of what I spent. Both because I really want to support his channel and also because, as you're seeing here, this is used, really high-end equipment, but used, and you never know what's going to happen to it. So I want it to be fair, but who knows, if I get enough super chats, maybe I could knock a whole bunch of money off the price for Tito. Yep, yep, Rotorcone, that's who this is going to. Specs of the PC, I'll go over in a bit once I have a GUI, but it's basically two SSDs, a Xeon processor with 48 gigs of RAM, that comes in handy, a 1070 graphics card with DVI, HDMI, and DisplayPort output, a DataPath Vision capture card. I'm going to try to get the E2S working, but worst case, the E1S. Both were very expensive new, and it's hit or miss used. You can get them between 80 bucks and 500, believe it or not. The swing is that big. And then an M Audio 192 audio card, and that is one of the best we've ever tested with MDFourier, which means that Tito will be able to do MDFourier analysis for all of his video. And to be honest, up till 1440p, he'd be able to do perfect captures of audio and video, both analog and digital audio. So, I mean, this thing is, and it's got the Plextor burner, so if you set it to the lowest speed, the CDRs can be used in anything like Sega CD, CDI, any of the consoles, I guess Dreamcast, because you could actually burn, if you have good quality media, you could burn a really high quality CD, so you don't wear your laser down as much. Oh, Rotorcone, that is awesome. Thank you so much. You just knocked 50 bucks off the price for Tito. That is really nice of you. I'm sure he appreciates it as well. Fushia, do you mean for your card or for my card? Because it was working, but then it's probably something else on the Windows side. But I needed to get to Windows 7 because that's the most important part of the stream. And later on, if people are still watching, I'll go back and fix the 10 side of it. For your card, okay. So here's something that you could do. Take out every other card from your computer, and if you have onboard graphics, take out your graphics card too, and try it with the DataPath card in the first PCIe 16 slot and see what happens. If it's detected then you're good to go. Then you could kind of mess around with settings and change things. I've seen one or two computers where you had to put it above the graphics card. Not common, but it does happen. But if you can't get it working at all, try getting an updated BIOS, or also try just resetting to factory. That could cause a whole other stream of nightmares, but, you know. Daniel, curious why you went with Xeon over AMD. Price. This very powerful workstation was, I think it was 500 shipped, and at the moment, when I bought this, everything Threadripper related was much more expensive, even decommissioned workstations. So that's always changing, but this was a great one. And also, Voltar had just bought the exact same one, and he said it was performing really well for him. So I bought the same one off the same vendor, and that way I could make sure. Because one of the things that I found to be super helpful, I would take a computer that's slightly not as good as another that multiple friends have. So when we run into issues like the crazy one with the Hauppauge capture card, then then we know we could verify it with each other. And when it happened on his too, that's when I knew, all right, stop dicking around. You've spent too much time on this. It's not going to work on this. Master Safer's only capture card at the moment is 720p input. Does anybody have any suggestions for taking 1080p sources down to 720p? You could get any of those Extron boxes. I did a live stream on that with Lewis a while back. You'd have to convert it to analog first, I believe, but that would work. Friendly advice, replace the power supply with one with a higher wattage. Most of the problems they had was with weak PSUs. Took forever to find the issue. That's another great suggestion. So Fuchsia, definitely, if you have a hand-built PC or an older workstation with, uh, you know, maybe you don't even know what the power supply is. Maybe it just came with it. That's a great suggestion. This one is a beefier power supply. I double. I don't remember when I checked, but I definitely checked on this one. The power is more than enough for the graphics card and just the two expansion cards. At one point, I had two CD-ROM drives, the graphics card with two expansion cards, and then a third card in the top PCI Express by one slot. And when I ran all of the stress tests, it was totally fine. So, okay, you're in a big rig PC, so you know the power's good. Cool. User. Yeah, I'll just call it Xeon. We will get to the specs again in 1 second, Samacom. Let's get this up and running, and I'll be able to show you right from here. Later. Yeah, that's why I grabbed it. But if you think about what else I put into it, you know, the E2S, the M audio card, the 48 gigs of RAM, the Plextor card, the two SSDs, because it didn't come with SSDs, so that added up. I think that was about a grand total for everything. And the 1070 graphics card, I think I bought that right when I got this, and I think that one was $300. I think, could be wrong. So this was about a grand, maybe just a little bit over. So I want to sell it for half. I think would be kind of cool. All right, we're gonna leave it at this resolution for now, and some basic tweaks, just that I always do to make things go a little quicker. Always show everything. Actually, let me jack up the resolution so I can actually see what I'm looking at here. No, I bought the 48 gigs of memory separate, and I think it had one crappy SSD. So it's a Xeon E5 2660 version 3. 48 gigs of RAM, and then all the other specs. Actually, since we're here, performance, get the fuck out of here. Okay. And I always set the background to as basic as possible. I'm just trying to squeeze out every ounce of performance, because even though it's a very powerful Xeon machine, we're going to be doing some serious capture with this thing. Um, okay, base system device. That's what I'll get to later on. That's why we have the driver down thing. Um, so let's see if the USB controller works and start getting things installed. Yeah, 40 PCIe 3.0 lanes, exactly. So let's copy this over. That is the network card driver that is specifically for this PC and Windows 7. Rotor code misses installing this. Gonna do a test install. Use a virtual machine. You bought a bunch of old GPUs and need to test those. Yeah, I mean, the drivers work. Windows 7. If the drivers line up, that's perfect. Master Safer, I don't remember, but if you go to YouTube/RetroRGB, click on live streams and look for the one that says Extron with Lewis, I have that listed there, which one I used. You have to convert from HDMI to VGA. So what you would probably want to do is use one of those splitters that I always talk about, which I'll be giving one to Tito. I'll show that in a minute too. Use one of those HDMI splitters, send one to the VGA converter into the Extron, and then that way you could downscale that to 720p. But to be honest, I would do whatever's cheaper, and unless you really want, unless you would really like the ability to downscale. But if you don't, then all you need to do is just get one of those $18 capture cards, and no, for 1080p you'd probably have to buy like $100 one, but could be worse. All right, we're copied, so I can take this thing out. Let me move the portable software over, and let's double check device manager again. So here's the software I was talking about before, which I definitely should have run in Windows 10 to show you all, but right before I started the stream, I ran this. And if you could scan your PC and hit backup and back up all of the drivers in this. And that is what it resulted in. All of these different drivers. So now I'm going to try and get some of these configured using those. Desktop. There we go. Um, any OS is a painful experience if you're doing anything that's not mainstream. So, and that's it leaves the last one here, so that does make it easier. Because, if I probably installed Windows, it's got to be thousands of times between places I worked, stuff for friends and family. And if it's just a laptop, It's so smooth. It goes fine. You know, as long as you get the network card driver up. Ah, Pepe, another one. Thank you so much. Thank you for the super chats. Everyone, every super chat from this one is going to knock the price off the computer for Tito, assuming I can get it all working. I mean, this was my PC for a while, and it was freaking awesome up until 4K 60 lossless. That's the only thing it wouldn't do. Um, Fuchsia is in the chat working on a similar setup right now, and they said that they're making progress after putting the data path card in the top slot. Excellent. Yeah, Samacom, I'm a big fan of Tito's stuff, and I want him to have the ability to do MDFourier and lossless video capture. So I'm building this for him to make sure that he can do as much as humanly possible. I think base system device I could probably get working with an install package, but we'll come back with that. But you could see how easy this is. Yes, it's boring, but compared to what it would have been like to try and hunt down what all of these base system devices were and try to find drivers for it, this is way easier. So let's stick with installing other stuff. Nope. Wrong one. Range. And I will do the audio driver next. I'm also going to be deleting these as I go, so I know. No, 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 no. Wrong keyboard. Wrong keyboard. All right. All right. So I know what I've already installed. And that's the wrong gold wave. So let's do the audio card. Yeah, Samacom. Not only has the Elgato had some serious compatibility issues, but the quality isn't always there in all settings depending on what you're capturing. So if you wanted to do something like here's footage of the new thing I'm testing, cool, it's gonna work great. But if you're like, oh, here's this thing versus that thing, you don't want the capture to be the deciding factor. You want to actually be capturing the right thing. I mean, in Tito's defense, though, it's really hard. I mean, you're all seeing right here what it's taking just to get all of these weird equipment to play nice with each other. It's always like this. It never gets easier with high-end capture. Okay. Yeah, Sam McCollum, I'm trying to get the E2S working. Worst case scenario, I'll give him the E1S, but I think the E2S would be fun. Because as I'll show later, what I end up usually doing is leaving the HDMI splitter plugged into one of the E2S's inputs, and then you have the other one for maybe your camera, so that you could be there, you could do direct capture right from your camera, and essentially have a way easier way to edit. That saved, I mean, it cut my editing time in half when I just all of the me shots going directly to the PC as opposed to recording on the camera. But he could also do it for like if you wanted one direct analog input, which is so much harder. I have that guide and that video up from a while back, but there's sometimes you might really want that. So all right, M audio is installed. Cool. Let's do 7-zip now too, because that thing's super helpful. Something else kind of funny. You all saw how weird the eject button worked on the CD-ROM drive. If you eject it in Windows, it works every time on the first try. How funny is that? Okay. There we go. Okay, 7-zips installed. M Audio Delta's installed. Gold wave. Agreed, Samacom. They're a pain in the ass, but I wouldn't have it any other way. Yeah. I don't know if this will run on Windows 7. This version. The software definitely will. I guess it will. All right. Awesome. That comes in handy a lot with like screenshots with the Vision software. Very, very often they'll be locked so you can't delete them. This is just a codec. And I don't think SD card formatter is going to be something used here. I think that's fine for 10. I'll set this up, but I have a feeling that if Tito's going to require Windows 7 to burn something, it's going to require older, like Nero software or something like that. I see some chat piling up, but I'm going to be doing a reboot in a second, so I will catch up with all of that then. And I got to get the video driver, so everything will look normal. Okay, image burn. That's the update pack that sometimes works and sometimes doesn't. We'll find out about that. Okay. I need this at some point anyway. Fuck the Bing bar. Haven't done any configuration, but it's showing your SNES in the vision window. So should you expect a good capture, or does it make sense for it to be a green hue? So if it's a green hue, you're going to want to go into the settings and change it from RGB to YUV color space. I could show that once this is done. And are you going direct fuchsia, or are you going with like a RetroTink product or something? Samicom says try VCS rather than Vision. Um, VCS has just been a giant pain, and you can't get certain versions compiled. You have to compile it yourself, and the settings don't really save right. I mean, it. I haven't tried it in over a year, but it was definitely a pain. Chris, everything is stretched. When did you become a dirty 16-9er? Thank you for the super chat. That is awesome. Yeah, you're right. You know what? Let me get the drivers. Let me work on that now. Okay. Reference files. I'll let Tito clean up the desktop however he prefers. Okay, all right, well, screw you, DirectX. We'll find another way to do it. Samicom, I did do another video a while back where I showed how to use VCS for oversampling, and I loved it for that. But that's the only time I need it now, is when I'm oversampling like Genesis or 32X when I want original direct captures. But I only use that RGB captures anymore when I need 240p direct, and mostly that's for archival stuff because you could do lossless 240p. An hour's worth of footage doesn't take up any space, and oh, by the way, you can convert it to anything you want after the fact. So that's my reasoning for direct versus either the RetroTink 5X or the OSSC. Yeah, good call, Chris. I should have done DirectX after I installed the graphics card. I haven't had the greatest luck with ProRes for capture. Yeah, it's oversampling is really hard. And in fact, every time I do it, I end up bugging the crew at the R3 wiki, and there's always something kind of crazy. Okay, virtual dub. This is the same version that I've been using to do 4K capture, so it should be able to do this. I'll leave that there, but we don't need a link to it. So we needed .NET framework anyway, so this is cool. I should have just done this first. We already did that. But let me test something. So some of these driver packages, when you extract them, oh, okay, so that's another network card. When you extract them, you could do it. You could just point the device manager to it, and other ones make it so that you actually have to install it. I don't like installing anything you don't have to. Benny, the build list for this one of the reasons I wanted to do it boring live stream style, I'm actually having fun, but just, rather than, kind of some fancier video, is because the build list is whatever you could find. A Xeon workstation is always a good help because you're getting a lot of lanes, a lot more than standard Intel computers. A used Threadripper would be awesome. Any kind of graphics card that can do H.264 or 5 encoding is something you're really going to want, because while you're not going to use that for lossless, why would you only do a capture PC when you could also use it for streaming? Or, like I'm showing here, I have 2 drives installed, one with Windows 7, that's what we're showing here, that's going to be a dedicated capture computer, and then you could also just boot into Windows 10 and have it be your streaming rig. So yeah, basically grab whatever you want, grab a decent graphics card, and then the 2 cards that I've been loving for both retro and modern capture are the DataPath Vision, E1 or E2. The only difference is simultaneous inputs on the 2, and the M audio card. Fuchsia, so you're using an HD Retrovision cable out of the SNES. So you're definitely going to need to switch it to component video, but you're also going to need to set phase. So you're going to need the 240p test suite and the checkerboard pattern. And that's the video that I did. That's the first video capture video I did, as well as the section on the website. So let me drop that link in the chat for everybody, if anybody cares. It's, video capture, DataPath Vision direct capture setup. Beautiful. Here you go. Pepe, these cards, I've seen the cards go anywhere from $85 to $500 used. It really is just where you are that day. So in that page, so if you drop, it's the color domain in the input setting. But that page has everything that you need, including showing the checkerboard pattern and all that stuff too. For this page was so much work. I don't know why it's stuck at downloading .NET Framework. The clock is correct, right? 324, yeah. That is one problem I've definitely seen with Windows, is if the clock is wrong, it'll mess with updates and stuff. Crank that up to 192. The full buffer. All right. There's no way that should be taking that long, so let's do a quick reboot. Republica Old Gamer, you could use ProRes RAW and OBS by installing Stream FX, and it records lossless flawlessly. Not quite, and not always. There's a lot of issues with getting the exact frame rate because it doesn't support FreeSync yet. And on top of that, once you get past 1440p, OBS freaks out for lossless. And I mean, I've talked to the creator of StreamFX about this. I've talked to everybody in the scene who works on this stuff. Everybody from the R3 Wiki to EposVox and you know, Tech, who's probably still listening in the chat here. So it's way harder than you would expect. But I mean, up to 1440p, it should be fine. Yeah, Pepe, try the black magic card, see what happens. All right, so we can get this the heck out of here and this too. Let me try this again and see if it kicks in a little bit better. No, I think we already have that. Video. Rotor cone, yeah. I mean, when you talk about video capture, there's two things to talk about. The first is I want to stream games with my friends. I want to hook up my camera to a capture card because it looks way better than a webcam. And that's fairly easy. But when you start talking about lossless capture to make sure that when you're doing these comparison videos, you're comparing the right things. You're not comparing capture artifacts. That's when it starts to get insanely complicated. Pepe, have you ever tried ProRes in Virtual Dub? I could try that today. Alex, was it me in an interview recently talking about weird things when capturing audio in Windows? Yes, and that is the reason we're doing Windows 7. However, this should be at some point migrated over to Linux, but we're doing one thing at a time just for the heck of it, and also because once we get Windows 7 configured, it's definitely it's usable, whereas Linux is still, the very customized version of Linux is still kind of in a transitional period. So while this is going, let me just try doing audio stuff on this. So, hey Monty. So, open. Okay. Okay. Set as default device. I'll leave that off. Go to Gold Wave and see what we got. Yeah. So right here, before we even hit record, we're already seeing Windows 7 work nicely with the M audio card, and Windows 10 couldn't deal with the quality difference settings. I still don't know why, because that actually does usually work. But let's set this to 192. Yeah, let's set it to 2 minutes. Give me a buffer here. And I will hit record and then play this file. And we'll see if installing in the background makes a difference for this. But I might have to do .NET Framework separately or something. We'll figure that out. Yeah, exactly, Rotorcone. But here are the issues. So one of the many reasons why I'm so excited to move to Linux is because now you're just dealing with modern Linux issues, and there are people out there that could help. Whereas the people out there that could help figure out what it is that we're doing right now are probably either listening to this or they're hanging out on the R3 Discord. There's not many people who understand why you would need to go down to Windows 7 and what all this weird crap is. So, yeah, exactly. Being on Mac OS, they hope similar benefits for audio as Linux. Yes, Mac OS audio is great, but there's a lot of other weirdness with Mac OS that makes video capture a lot harder. So Linux it is. Okay, we're going to save as. Where's FLAC? Maximum 24-bit stereo. Digital loopback 192. Mixed that up, didn't I? Yeah. Yeah, right in the desktop. Hey, sure. I will get to you that question in a second. I just want to get the next thing kicked off so that I'm talking when we're waiting for Windows. That way I'm trying to minimize the amount of time I have people waiting here. So MDFourier. So now we're going to use the equipment test here. Selected 192. The reference file is going to be the one that we just played. And the comparison file is going to be the one that we just recorded. Let's hit execute. Comparing frequencies. That's weird. Something must be... Yeah, so something must be up because maybe it's because it's trying to download and install something. That is definitely not how it's supposed to work. So, yeah. Let me delete that. That's what I get for trying to do multiple things at once. Delete those results. And let's jump in here and so if this isn't going to install the way we want it, let's do it this way. And if you all notice, after the reboot, all of those other devices were gone because it knew to look in that double driver folder. Kind of handy. Computer, C, NVIDIA. Here we go. Fuchsia, if you go to r3.fyi, that's the main website, and they'll have the Discord link there. Sure. What are the main benefits of these capture solutions? Is lossless that different? Yeah, huge. But what are you doing? Are you streaming and hanging out with your friends and playing games? Then it's completely useless to waste your time on all of this stuff. And I mean that with love and respect. Don't waste the money. Don't waste the time. Don't waste the effort. But if you're doing something like, hey, I'm going to compare two different video signals from two competing products, it's essential because there's a bunch of YouTube reviews out there where people are calling out differences in the game, but they're actually calling out the capture settings, the scalars they're using. So the main benefit is only for people that need perfection, or crazy people like Tech that want the crispiest looking streams ever. Obviously, I mean that would love too. Um, so at the very least, we should be able to get this in 1080p, the correct aspect ratio, so Chris could stop making fun of me. Oh boy, are we frozen? No, cool. All right. So this is one of the main advantages too of using Windows 7. If I set a Windows 10 PC to 1080p, but it detects the EDID of a 4K monitor, it still sends it 4K and it just scales everything up. But that, if you're doing capture card testing, it's the worst thing that could do. Whereas in Windows 7 and in Linux, if you set it to 1080p, it just outputs 1080p. So no BS. Um, all right, so we know that the capture card's working. We know that everything is now falling into place. Let's check the extra drivers. And now let's try to install the data path card. And this could be another nightmare. Uh, I'll double check with the... I think I might need... Yeah, I might need Windows 7 specific drivers for these. Or I might not even need them at all. But I'll see. Oh, no big deal. I could just get the USB controller off the website. Thank you, Pepe. I appreciate it. Um, so we don't need that. So let's reboot with the capture card in, and I'll cross our fingers here. Oh, there was a Vision RGB driver just this month? Neat. It probably is offering newer features for their more recent cards or compatibility updates. All right, I'm gonna go with the 2. I want Tito to have the super pimped out one. DataPath Vision E2S. Dual inputs can be used simultaneously. And that fell out before. I'll put that back. All right, we're in. Everybody cross their fingers. It's completely reasonable for this to take 2 reboots at least to get the data path working. So we'll see. So it just did this before, so it's probably detecting more stuff just like last time. So I'm going to be patient and not hit reset, which I have been known to do. Okay. That's totally fine. That means we just need to install the driver, and now let's cross our fingers. Oh yeah, we could kill that too, because that's the failed file here. So here's the update pack I'm going to try not to install, not only because it just takes forever, but I've seen it cause issues sometimes. So let's just go to the Vision install and see what happens. So this is installed. This is an issue that I chased for weeks and weeks and weeks. Tuna, the PC is slow as molasses? This is a Xeon PC. What the fuck are you talking about? Um, so yeah, I just ignored that and it seemed to be working fine. But I thought that was an actual issue. So I just dropped everything. That's how I found that update pack. That's how I found a forum where people all shamed me because I didn't say thank you fast enough. It's fucking weird. But, um, uh-oh. But you might not actually need to do that. That's fine. That's fine. I warned everybody this might happen. Tuna, you're coming into the stream 2 hours into it after I've already been explaining what I'm doing, and the first thing you said is this PC is slow. So either be polite and catch up or fuck off. Same hanging on that exact Windows thing. This is probably where it's detecting the hardware. So let's see. Do we get a blue screen? Do I got to pop it out again? Do I have to switch to the E1? How far did we get? Okay. So it's sees something. It sees something. Yes, Amicom, Live Gamer 4K is how I'm capturing this other PC. And I'm also looking at, I don't have the video split, so I'm looking at this through my OBS window, which is why I'm a little slow on the uptake for some of this. Let's see if DirectX installs now, because I believe that's required for Vision to work right. And while we're doing that, let me see if I could point this to, oh, wait. If I hit enable, it might crash the computer again. Well, let's see what happens. Update driver. I believe it extracted everything in documents. Yep. Are we gonna crash? You just got a Live Gamer 4K for $63 shipped? Okay. So I left myself a note here. Let me just run the thing that I left myself a note on. Maybe that'll help. Anthony Den, you need to write one of those capture cards for dummies books. Yeah, I mean, this is basically partly what this stream is all about. But I couldn't have done any of this without the R3 wiki. They helped me through a lot of the really crazy parts that didn't make any sense whatsoever. Why serverboard is a perfectly reasonable question. It's because Xeons have more lanes, so you should be able to do something like put in a dual 1440p lossless capture card along with a 1070 graphics card and a high-end audio card without worrying about bumping up against lanes, because that is something that would happen on standard PCs. A Threadripper would be just as good, but the reason I chose this was because of price. The bare bones workstation a year or so ago was like under 500 shipped, and at the time there was just nothing used that even came close. And then I put all the other components in. Samicom, that is a crazy deal. You should absolutely hold on to that. I love this card. It performs so much better than I originally thought in my original review. And in fact, let me drop that in the chat, because in the original review, I think I edited it, but I might actually have had something about how it doesn't work right at lower resolutions, but that's the bug in Windows 10 I was talking about. So not only will I drop the link for all of you, I want to make sure I made that correct change. But why shit tier HP board? All right, you can just go fuck yourself. See ya. Goodbye. All right, this right here, I gotta edit that. The same exact capture taken with data path vision, sharper and brighter. No, that's because it was Windows doing the scaling. So that is a definite no. Interesting. All right, let me try to redo the vision install and see if we can get this running now that I have some of the prerequisites installed. That's also fine. Fleero Fox. That's funny. Okay. While that's copying, let me just edit this review real quick, because that is wrong. That is wrong. It's 444 capture should match. Yes. Where was that? Updated. Sorry for the delay. I just didn't want to forget. Oh, there's one more thing I forgot to do. Totally forgot. I haven't had to do this since Windows 7 was mainstream. Now you don't have to worry about the digital driver signatures. Okay, that should all fix itself on the next reboot. I might still have to figure out what the simple communications controller is, but if we don't have any crashes, I'm going to leave well enough alone. Nah, Chris, just some idiot wanting attention. Yeah, rotor cone. It's definitely on the HP motherboard. It's I'm trying to find is a Z440 workstation, but unfortunately there was like 20 different models of the Z440. I wonder what Windows is doing right here. When I used to build custom embedded images, um, you could take that off and kind of see what's going on in the background, sort of like what Linux does. It'd be kind of interesting to see. Uh, oh, look, a start menu that's actually usable. Not a problem at all. Not a problem because of that user account control. I think we might just have to do one more quick reboot and we're done. I might have to do that update pack, but I really don't want to unless we have to. All right. RotorCone, I'll try that as soon as we're done getting this installed. It's been a while, so you might want to refresh my memory. The AGamer54, why am I using Windows 7 instead of a stable Linux distro? I did go over this earlier, but the real reason is because I can get Windows 97 to do everything I need it to do right now, just going through this massive pain in the ass to get it there. Trying the same thing on Linux would basically require my same 20 something years of experience, but with Linux, not on Windows. However, there is something coming. So when after Tito gets this, now he has this Windows 7 side to use whenever he needs to, but there will very soon be a Linux install that will do all of this stuff pre-installed as long as you're using hardware that we've tested. So I don't want to talk too much about it because it's not out yet, and I don't want to pressure any of the devs who are doing all of this for free. But hell yeah, Linux is coming. Well, all kidding aside, Steven, this is essentially what I have on my PC, except I'm testing the Linux side on it. On my brand new, bought in 2022 i9 PC, I'm basically doing exactly that. I mean, it's a modern GPU, modern CPU, modern-ish platform, within definitely within 10 years. I think it's closer to 5 years. Um, and really, this PC, when I'm done with it, is going to be all the way up to 1440, or maybe even the 1536, the one with the iPad resolution, but definitely 1440p, complete lossless with up to 192K 24-bit audio. So yeah, all kidding aside, like you actually do need really modern specs to be able to pull this stuff off. Thanks so much, Pepe, for swinging by. Really appreciate that, and hopefully see you at the next one. Oh, I know you were just messing around. I just thought it was, it's kind of interesting and funny to see, like, a data path card from 10 years ago still requires a very modern PC to get it running. Interesting that the Vision's not working yet. So I think we have to do that crappy update that I didn't want to do. It's not crappy, it's great. It just takes forever and sometimes it causes other issues. And if this crashes the Windows install, I think I'm just going to go crack a beer and call the stream for the day. I knew this was going to be a long one, but I'm not doing this all over again. But this should fix a bunch of the little things. shout out to the people who were mean to me on that on that forum, because if it wasn't for them, I would have not known about this at all. It's a roll-up update pack that has everything you would need from the time Windows 7 was discontinued till now, including some extra drivers, some settings, and other stuff. So Samicom, this is an update pack that. So when I first installed the driver, you might have noticed it said this PC is missing a service pack update, and it's not. But it's one of the weird things about Windows 7 being able to detect it. So um, it's basically a roll-up update pack that works, but occasionally has had some crazy issues. So we shall see. All right, so yeah, sure. Details, hardware IDs. There you go. Then Google to find the right driver. Yeah, Samicom. So this what I'm doing now is only necessary for Windows 7, and if that new Linux thing is finished, we'll never need to do this again. Although, I shouldn't say that. As soon as those words came out of my mouth, I just realized there's going to be a need to do this at some point. Somebody at some point is going to need a Windows 7 install with this stuff. So it's another reason I'm glad I have this archived in the live stream. Maybe maybe I'll just pay somebody to chop it up into the important bits and have like an abridged version of it. Hey gamer, I did see the Sonic Mania decompilation. It looks awesome. I'm really interested in seeing uh, who takes advantage of that. This was a USB controller. I definitely remembered that. Maybe we'll get lucky and some of the hardware stuff will be included in this. Ah, all right. You know what? I'm going to use this PC to download it then. Intel Management Interface Drive HP. Windows 7. Put that on the USB stick. All right. Let me open up this other one and we could try to find to a this is as well. Samicom, I'm going to be moving to a newer PC soon and dreading getting the data path cards going. Yeah, you could use them via Thunderbolt, but not on Windows, only on Linux. KS, is that Windows 7? Is that for what's on screen right now? Actually, I haven't had a chance to even Google that. Correct. The DataPath Vision E1 and E2 are PCI X cards, not PCI Express. So if you put it in Thunderbolt, in a Thunderbolt enclosure, what ends up happening is it just won't read it. You'll in the device manager, you'll show the PCI X converter board, but you won't be able to install it. But it does work in Windows. Ah, beautiful. Intel USB 3.0 extensible host USB driver. Perfect. It's exactly what I needed. Uh, all right. Let's add that to the good old USB stick too. Not sure if I should be pushing my luck here, but screw it. Let's install it while this is installing. By the way, the reason my USB stick says unraid is because that's a backup that I've been using to test different configurations um, on my main PC to try to do unraid pass through. It's a very long thing that I'll probably do after another many hours of practice. I'll probably do a live stream with that too. Oh, do I have to install it? Install it? Yeah. So that's yeah. All right. Let's try it. It won't let me copy and paste here? Oh, there we go. Guess I do have to try just manually installing it. All right, I'll do that after this because I don't want to screw up what's going on right now. But the two drivers that I found are both of these. So let me just copy them to the desktop and get it on the reboot. So this process that I'm doing right now, I first started testing when I was doing Unraid virtual machine hardware pass through, and luckily I was doing this while I was doing like 5 other things at once. But I probably had to do this process like 20 times in order to get it right. Hey, what's up, Tito? How's it going? Your your new computer is being just as finicky as every computer that has a data path vision card in it, but we think we're getting it. We're getting close. I do wish I could choose what was on this update pack. Like, I don't really care about a spelling thing in Internet Explorer 11, but whatever. It's simplifying a lot of these KB installs for us. Yep, you're gonna have a dual boot machine, so the Windows 10 side, you can just use it like a computer. I'll have a backup for you, so if anything goes wrong, you can just easily restore from a backup. You could stream with it, but the moment you start doing super badass capture, then you've hit escape on boot, select the second drive and boot to Windows 7, and now you have MDFourier and pretty flawless video. Assuming we can get it working, but I mean, this is what I did for a year and a half on this machine, and it worked amazing, so we'll see. You know, I just realized sometimes I'm a complete moron. Your screen name is Ro Dark One, as in like the Romanian Dark One, and I've been calling you Rotor Cone because it is technically also Rotor Cone. What a moron! Sorry, my friend. No disrespect, man. oh, oh. I'm still really curious what's going on right here, because this could just be the section where it's scanning PCI Express hardware and double checking because the driver isn't digitally signed for Windows 7, because of course it's not. You know, everything's been updated since then. And if that's the case, it's totally normal, but it's like I'm Road Dork #1. That's funny. Yeah, Lero Fox. It did not do that when we had Windows 10 running, so I'm kind of interested. If I had the time, which I definitely don't this week, I would go back to all of my notes for when I was writing custom Windows 7 embedded scripts and just make one for this. And in fact, I probably would have done that if we didn't have the new Linux thing coming at some point. Yeah, Samicom, it's the Live Gamer 4K is pretty awesome. The 4K 60 capture through the Rec Central app is not even remotely close to lossless, though. And it doesn't need to be, but that's one of those things where you go in and you change all of the settings to full uncompressed RGB, and then you actually get full uncompressed PNG still captures, but you don't get video captures uncompressed. That's when you need the crazy methods. Nerdy Sean, I just streamed with Ubuntu. The capture card is great with 1080p 60 plug and play, which is great compared to a hacked Legato Mac driver. Yeah, Totally understand and totally agree. That's coming, but it's coming. You could probably mess with all of that now and without much Linux knowledge get all of it working. But what we're trying to do is get lossless working. And that's just it's probably more of a waste of our time than anything, but you know, it's unless you're doing comparisons, I mean. But for what I do, I have to. Otherwise, like, how could I compare the RetroTink versus one of those garbage made for TV signal scalers if I wasn't 100% sure what I was comparing was the signal and not, you know, a bad capture setup or something. What's the RetroTink issue you're having? By the way, I warned you all. This is taking forever. In fact, you know what? Let me switch over to this. And all right. So the final setup, Mister's on top here, but the final setup is going to be this splitter that I freaking love. This is the one that I showed in that video. I always talk about it. I'm going to set it to 2.0 audio to always force that from HDMI sources. But Tito, if you're still watching, you could set that to, if you're using the splitter to go to a monitor and to the data path card, you leave it on TV, and that way if you have it going into a stereo, you can. And then it's going to just sit here. And one of the outputs is always going to be connected to one of the inputs. And I have a shielded audio cable that's going to be out of the coax audio output. So it's going to extract digital audio from HDMI, which is flawless and uncompressed up to basic 5.1, but definitely 2.0. And it's also just going to be powered off of a USB cable that just sits here. In fact, let me just plug that in now. I'll try to get one that's a good size so you don't have to worry about a lot of slack. But basically, this is just going to sit up on top, and that's going to be where you plug HDMI sources into. And that's going to work really well. And then for this, we have the Plex Door burner. Oh, good, you're still here, Tito. So what's funny about this one is if you right click, so this Plex Door burner was an external one, and this is one of the really good ones that people have been hunting down, so that if you run it at the lowest speed and you get some Taiyo Yuden CD media, it's really, really high quality CDRs. However, when you press the button here, you hear it click a couple of times, and you gotta like wiggle the gear that's here to get it to open. However, if you right click on it in the device or in the computer manager, it just opens. So I don't know what the heck was up with that, but it's worth dealing with because of the high quality. Ah, of course you did it like that, you bastard. There we go. So you push you'll see the gear when you get it here. You push it that way, but also you could just right click and it should just open up fine. But that is very good for burning stuff. There's an extra slot here if you want to add a different one, and there's also some piece of crap that it came with. I don't even think, oh, I guess I do have it plugged in, but yeah, that's junk. I just left it there to fill the slot. You have the 1070 graphics card, the M audio card, and then this hopefully is going to stay the E2S. I have an E1S if that's all that we can get working, and I also have a second E2S just in case something went out on that one. And that's basically it. It's still going with this thing, huh? All right. Oh, Dark One. So that's exactly right. Stephen Foss called it out. If you go to H sampling in the RetroTink, you could fix that. This was the HP. It is Z440, and if there's any markings around it, let me know, and I'll see if there's anything like. There's a serial number. but it's not like Dell that has the service tag numbers, which, you know, Dells can be annoying, but those are very handy. Ugh. So boring waiting for these updates, but it's the price you gotta pay. We get Mr. Plug back in so we could test right in it. The only other interesting thing is here is the audio inputs and outputs. Wait, what am I holding it up to? I thought I was still on the other view. Here are the audio inputs and outputs for the 192. You have MIDI, and you also have monitor ins and outs, so you can plug this up to your awesome studio monitors that I saw that you have. And the inputs, I'll leave these adapters in here for you, both to know which is which and also so you can have good RCA. But that is the MDFourier approved input right here. So this screws right into the back. Thanks for swinging by, Tito. I'll see you soon. While we're doing this, I'm just going to run up and get a glass of water. I will be right back. Oh, wait, maybe. No, yeah, I'm going to be back. All right, I think I'm back just in time. I also got a bunch of packages just showed up. So you found a driver pack? Make sure. This is definitely the time where I step away because I'm just I'm impatient and I'm like, oh crap, what's happening? Let me pull the plug and reboot, and it's probably just finalizing the updates in the background. So let me give it a couple of minutes while I sit here and open today's deliveries. I mean, the fans are still spinning. Computers. Ah, there we go. Okay, it's probably just the final reboot, unless we're now in an infinite boot loop. Cross your fingers for no infinite boot loop. Those update packs always make me nervous because of this stuff. Ah, my Noctua fans just showed up. So I could replace the fan in my noisy ass Thunderbolt enclosure with a quiet one. All right, so there is no crashing then. I guess what's happening here is it's just configuring the Windows updates in order. So every time it finishes, it reboots, recycles, and then and goes back to it. About the retro tank, that's interesting. Um, there was a few other options. There was a sync issue. Hmm. I'm trying to remember exactly what the fix was. Remember when Windows updates were delivered via Internet Explorer? Oof. When I first started doing the embedded images, the Microsoft rep was like, "Yeah, and just make sure that each one of these update packs you have to install manually and reboot. And you can't just script them. You have to do it and reboot between each one." I was like, "Okay, what happens if I don't?" And they were like, "Well, I mean, it could cause this, and it could." Okay, um, all right. Well, I'll check in with you tomorrow. And of course, I scripted them all to run. Ran all of our tests, let it run overnight, and I was like, "Yeah, everything's fine." And he's like, "You ran each one of those individually." I'm like, "Yeah, we're good. Here, why don't you run it through your tests?" And he put it through his tests, and he was like, "Okay, everything's working fine." And I never told him. I just ran a script, and I still don't really understand why there could have been an issue, but whatever. See, everybody, this is a lesson in patience. I was so close to yanking the plug a second ago, and I went, I vaguely remember this happening before, so let's let this finish. Master Safer wants to know if those HDMI downscaling splitters work with 1440p or are they strictly 4K? I don't know, but my gut's telling me they're strictly 4K. I think something that cheap and that simple is using the most basic algorithm possible. It's probably scanning for a 4K EDID and then just doing a basic preordained routine that's baked into that chip, and it's not smart enough to do anything else whatsoever. Cougar Town Elgato is usually the worst choice for retro. It doesn't like it's the only thing that doesn't work with the RetroTink 2X. The OSSC drives it crazy. For modern, it's fine, but also, oh, I missed your original question. I'm sorry. I must have been getting my glass of water here. Is building a capture PC easy or difficult depending on the budget? So I don't mind repeating this because I want, if anybody is jumping in midway, I want to make sure they know what exactly I'm trying to do here. If you're just simply building a PC to capture for some long plays or for casual streaming with your friends, or heck, even pro streamers, it's super easy. Get the cheapest things possible. Just check for compatibility like Elgato and stuff like that, but you don't have to worry about anything. Even worst case scenario with like the Live Gamer 4K works perfect with the OSSC except in 5x mode, but the only problem is audio dropouts, so no problem. Put analog audio in and you're good to go. What we're doing here is for people that need lossless captures for both audio and video, and that's expensive, but more importantly than expensive, it's as crazy and time consuming as what you're seeing here. So if you want to be a YouTube reviewer that digs deep into the video settings type of thing, where you're comparing this port of a game to that port of a game, yeah, you're gonna have to spend some money and you're gonna have to go through the crap that I'm going through and all of us go through to get really good captures. But if you just want a really nice looking stream, you can get almost anything. Master Safer, I bet you could spoof it with an EDID, but I don't know what it would do to it. But if you don't have an HDMI splitter yet, or if you need one that has all of the features of that, it's worth the 25 bucks anyway to pick one of those up. Once it's installed, I've had the fewest issues by far with the data path vision. Once you get it running, it's generally pretty solid. But getting it running, going through what we're going through today, that's always the issue. I for a while I was borrowing Art's DataPath 8K DisplayPort capture card, super fancy, and it was much easier to install and get running. Um, but it still was a high bandwidth card, so you still had to sometimes a couple of reboots, BIOS settings in order to get it running. Oh, thank you, Master Safer. I appreciate it. Cougar Town has the RetroTink 5X Pro. Will that run fine with the Elgato? If you set the 5X to triple buffer mode, it should, but you never really know. Samacom, what splitters are you using? Because that's an interesting one. Ah, Road Dark One. Well, thank you for the support. It's much appreciated. And yeah, I see you up on Discord now. What's the latest on hot polish? I feel like I never hear about them anymore. Me neither, but I still use one of their cards for direct S video and composite capture, and I don't know if it's necessary anymore at all. I'm going to be doing a video before the end of the year about VHS capture and all that stuff, and that's when I'll really put that card to test. Oh, Jason, I think you mentioned that once or twice, but it's very hard to keep track of everybody's screen name versus name, and some people have different names based on Discord and forums and stuff. So my apologies, but hey, what's up? Samicom's using a View HD with audio extraction and one of those downscaling generic splitters that I recently reviewed. Um, Daisy chained together. Okay, so both the View HD and the downscaling splitter work for me, but I've never tried daisy chaining them into the Avermedia. I knew these took long, but I forgot how long it took because I usually just walk away and then come back in the morning or something. Oh, what do we got? What do we got? That's the first time I saw that, but it seems to be okay. Yeah, Jason, if you want to take a look, I think Fudo had some suggestions for using a Raspberry Pi to get BFI as well, which I think is kind of neat. All right, the mouse is working, keyboard's working. Hauppauge is still making SD capture cards? Weird. All right, I am pulling the plug this time. Pull the plug, count to 3. Let's see if we can reboot for real this time. It'll most likely, after all this, need one more installation of the data path card, but that's completely expected. And the one very important thing, if we get this running, immediately do a Clonezilla backup. Immediately. So that if anything ever happens again, even if the drive dies, all you do is just fire that thing up, and there you go. You're done. Boot device not found? What? What? Let me boot to the Windows 10 drive. I've never seen that happen before on this thing. Boot back to Windows 10. Make sure the BIOS isn't going crazy. Damn, grabbed the wrong mouse again. Come on. That could have been it. It could have messed with one of the background driver installs. Could have messed with it. Um, but we're back at Windows 10, and let's see what we could do. So, okay. Well, it would help if I plugged in HDMI cable. All right. So that's still going here. That's where you want to switch between the color spaces if you're using a retro tank or if you're going direct with component video, by the way. So that's working here. Redub. Capture AVI. One. Preview. Yeah, what's funny, Cougar Town, is I've had this thing working for a while. I just erased it all so none of my crap would be on it for Tito, and really didn't expect it to be this much of a challenge with all the little bumps in the road. Well, I guess I did, because it always is weird like that, but digital in for now, yep. Let's just test and see. That's can't be right. That's got to be a setting, because check this out. 48 gigs of RAM. There's more than enough memory, and okay, so that's the Windows. Oh, no. There we go. Save some space there. And I forgot to do that in this one too. Here's a trick I've been using forever. So command prompt, right click and run as administrator. Power config. Don't fat finger. Dash H off. So that turns off hibernation, and as you can see, 60 gigs on the other drive is what that hibernation file was taking up, which is just a total waste of space. So Cougar Town, if you use hibernation, it's fine, but I've never used it in my life ever, so I just can't. I can't see a need for that. Let me try Redub 2. I gotta be missing something. I bet you there's something easy, like DirectX or a Windows update or some crap like that that's preventing this. There's gotta be, because I've done this so many times. Preview window. Yeah, hibernation's only worth it with laptops, but I also never really left my laptop in a suspend mode like that. I would always power it all the way off. So, boot menu. Wow, that's messed up. Well, after all that, the XP drive apparently is messed up, but we might be able to recover it. But let me check the BIOS settings to see what the heck is up with. Hey, graphics gear. This was more of like a let's show everything that can go wrong while building a sensitive capture PC than a fun one. Yesterday's was a lot of fun, though. I mean, I'm having fun here, but if you're not a nerd, you're not going to find this fun at all. So, display, media. So slot settings, the other thing I messed with was this one. So we forced it to Gen 3 speed. So let's set that to auto. Let's see if that goes back to... See if changes. Okay. Well, glad to see you, my fellow nerd, then. The only things that I could think of would be .NET Framework. This is going to be checking the Windows XP disk, so let's leave this. Yeah, Ian, I I always assumed that I was just an untrusting nerd, but I've also found that hibernation causes more problems than fixes. So sleep mode, it's hit or miss, but I always just power off. I think Macs are much better at that. Sure. Also sure. So vision window should still be working. So is the running theory that the spiders came together in secret and sabotaged your pipes out of spite after you moved in and evicted them? You know, wouldn't surprise me one bit. Not one bit. Um, awesome. Thanks for swinging by, Alex. And yeah, hope to see you there. Should be a good time. Hardware. See what other weirdness 10 is doing. Do I get? That's so weird. This is why I'm spending all the time and effort trying to get Windows 7 up and running. That should not be that way at all. But I mean, this is just what happens when you start messing with this stuff. Let me change it to that maybe. I'll try this again just to see what happens, but so yeah, fucking weird. So device, change it to that. Wait. There was something weird. I had to like a crazy Windows 10 thing for this. I think I had to boot into this mode. And I have to like switch. There was something really weird about Windows 10 and being able to get loopback working like that. Ins, output, input, mixer. So odd. Let's switch it to just line in. No, I actually didn't lose anything to the pipe leakage other than the ceiling. It was the luckiest thing on the planet. Not lucky from a, I still had to replace a bunch of stuff like a ceiling and um an appliance and all that crap. But from the point of view of like how lucky I am that nothing actually broke, yeah, it was unbelievable. Hey, Mad. So I'll actually use this for once. That should already be installed. And let's try OBS. I think that's part of DirectX, so I'll have to wait for that. Yeah, Matt, I love the interviews, but I've been so crazy trying to scramble to get everything for Retro World this coming weekend that I just haven't had time. So part of the reason why I've done so many live streams is because there's a lot of people have their stuff at my place, whether I'm borrowing it or it's, I I was able to procure it for them and they're all just kind of meeting me at the expo to get it. So anything that I wanted footage of, anything that I wanted to test, the stuff like this, like I'll be seeing Tito in person, so I could, assuming I have this working right, I could pass this over to him. So every waking moment's been scrambling to get all that done. Clone Conversation 2 is happening. Lawyers are getting involved. That's it's picking up a little bit of steam. AKA slacking. Yeah. Yeah, if you've ever worked an event before, it's exhausting. I love it, but it's going to be a couple days in a row of just nonstop on the go. Cool as hell, but not easy. Can we expect a live stream with everybody at the expo? Maybe. Maybe. Oh yeah, Jason, I know you're kidding. But yeah, that's a good idea. Weird. I think another thing I could try is just install the full version of OBS. I don't like doing that. I like to have different versions available for different things, but it'll it might be able to just say like, "Hey, you're missing this." Yeah, graphics gear. I mean, pretty good excuse. Get to see a lot of awesome people all in one place. The cool thing is that it's right by Bradley Airport, so I know a bunch of people that probably wouldn't normally fly all the way over here, but the fact that they get out of the plane, jump on the shuttle, or very short Uber over and everything, and that kind of made it a lot easier for people. So let me delete the portable version then, and just go with the main. I mean, I think your overlays are enough reason to warrant a table. I think as long as you did a decent job promoting it, you would probably be able to get your money, at the very least, your money back for the trip paid for. But you got a lot of awesome stuff. I think you'd probably be able to do it. I mean, at least we see the performance is pretty good about this. Okay, now we'll do OBS. Okay, the one thing that I always recommend people do, the first thing is start a new scene. Typing on the wrong keyboard again. Because if you look under the audio mixer, I don't want either of those. Those are just going to get in my way. So, new source, now it's nice and clean. So, Vision 1 is the first input. You always want to set the resolution that the data path is using. And another really great feature, flip vertically. Nine, color range full. RetroRGB. No. I don't really have much cable management going on for that CRT wall at all, in fact. So let me, where's the recording going to? Let me change a few settings here. That's fine. It is not indistinguishable, but also fine. Audio, 48K stereo, video, yes, yes. Okay. And color format RGB. Let me start recording. And just to show you why, anybody who was curious why I picked a Xeon CPU, that's nothing. That's nothing. So let me stop this so we don't that. So I could just delete all of these. No longer needed. Videos. Okay. So here's the other thing that I wanted to show. Now, through OBS, this isn't surprising, but here's what I'd test for frame drops. So we have a frame drop here using OBS. Mm. That's a duplicated frame. So that's one of the reasons why I don't like OBS, because it once FreeSync is, or if FreeSync is ever enabled in that, you won't have that issue. However, let's keep going with this, and let me switch views real quick. And if I'm missing any chat, I will get back to that in a second. So let me take the splitter that I was talking about and grab a power cable for it. So this is outputting directly to the data path card. I use the USB 2.0 slot to power this because I'm not really using that for anything else. Here is the very well shielded audio cable that is going into the digital input. I think it's the input. I might have to swap that around. And let me just grab whatever HDMI cable I have here to connect to the mister. Connect that right to the input. And let's go back. Okay. This. And let me switch to a game with audio so we could easily do that. Good old Sonic. Okay. Interesting about the speckles, but I'll chase that down in a second. That could just be the cable I'm using. Okay, am I plugged into the right one? Interesting. So something about the capture card or the audio card isn't being detected properly in this. Interesting. Let's close out and set this to 48K or something. External. Fire up OBS again. Huh. Well, maybe I just reinstall the driver. I've seen weirder. I've seen weirder today. Where Delta. All right, now I'll check the chat and see what I've missed. I might need the direct show replacement DLL. I don't think so, but never know. Row Dark One's thinking of completely moving to analog, with the prices these days of a new PVM or BVM are kind of outrageous. Yeah, absolutely. Right click and show each core separately. Yeah, sure. I've seen a few new old stock ones. They're expensive. It's very expensive. They're not quite frame drops though. That was duplicated frames, and I think it's to compensate for the off timings into 60 hertz. So what do you do to circumvent the frame drops? You use virtual dub, and you hope it falls into place. Well, hey, look. Now it's working. So that must have been the issue we were getting before, was the issue before must have simply been not having .NET Framework, not having Direct Show installed. So let's try this again. Actually, let's try two things. So let's just go into OBS and see if we get any audio. Yay! Okay. All right. Awesome. Now we're on track. Now we're back on track. All right. Let's load up. So, switch over here. Switch over there. Go back into VDub. File tests. Preview. Capture pin. RGB 2432 should be the same for this. Preview pin. Top down. Compression. Lagger, that's fine. Top down. Maybe I do have to do RGB 32. Yeah, here we go. Try a capture. So it's interesting. There's different settings for capture and preview. So that's definitely something you're always going to look out for with this. Black screen, huh? All right, well, let's see what else we got. Source image format. Well, screw it. Let me try. Try no compression. See if that works. So you see right here, average rate. So it's only capturing at 15 frames per second because that's all. I mean, you're dumping an insane amount of data onto an SSD. So I kind of knew that wasn't going to work, but let's try. Configure. Let's try UT video RGB. I've been getting used to virtual dub too, so maybe I'm just Maybe I'm just used to that. So average rate 54. So there's still some tweaking to be done here. So let's switch the file over to the second drive, the Windows XP drive, or XP, the Windows 7 drive, just to see. Let's try. So it's higher. So we need some tweaking in order to get the lossless 1080p here. What's funny, so you see the spikes. I think that's kind of the issue. That's why it's dropping a frame here and there. But we're getting there. We're getting closer. I also think that's less of an issue on Windows 7 too. So temp. That's one dropped frame. And remember, this is lossless. This is lossless, and we're not even done tweaking yet. Steps in the right direction, though. That's for sure. Get that out of here. Okay, so now that we got some of that working, let's try to go into Gold Wave and show what I've been trying to show before. Watch it not work now. What am I set to here? 44. Try 44 for now. It's really not liking this loop back. That's funny. Oh well. Yeah, Lero Fox, it's one of my favorite softwares, to be honest with you. It works really well, and the only issues you find are really Windows 7 and 10 related. So we're pretty good so far. I do need to do the tweaking to make sure that we can get full speed out of VDub. I could try this one more time over here. YouTube video. Capture pin, RGB 24. It'd help if I plugged the cable back in. Well, that's interesting. I wonder what that was all about. Huh. That's odd. I must. Oh. Let me try booting into 7, and if that doesn't work, I think I gotta call the stream and finish this up later or tomorrow or something, but we're might not seem it, but we're actually really close to there. Of course it did that. Of course it did that. It's actually a really good sign. Hey, Perf. Okay. Fingers crossed. I don't get what's going on. Maybe I should. What the heck? Let me try a different SATA cable. I bet you the partitions got messed up. Something weird must have happened with this. Try to get back into safe mode. If I can't, I'll just call it, because the Windows 10 side is exactly what I had expected. Yeah, Row Dark one definitely could have been the dual boot messing up a little bit, but I've been trying to keep only one of them connected at a time. And yeah, the Windows 10 side's looking good. We just need Windows 7 for the better audio. And I also got to get 60 frame per second lossless going, which it's already really close with no tweaking and no messing around. So that alone is a good sign. Just the fact that it might do it without any tweaking yet. Damn it, I did it again. I gotta hit it right after the BIOS screen. Weird. Weird. All right, let's see what we got here. Yeah, I just ran the system repair and it said it didn't find any issues, which is the strange part. And I did make sure to do that with the correct hard drive, etc. But let's fire up 10 and see what we got. No, out of curiosity, I was just talking about not even tweaking this yet. One of the things that I wanted to double check was the disk I/O settings. Meg, 3 chunks in buffer. Okay, so that's still working here. That was pretty funny. Lero Fox. That's pretty funny. System. Weird that it keeps changing. RGB 24, top down. All right, there's got to be something else going on. I'm gonna go to a different project, come back and finish this tomorrow. But thank you all very much for hanging out. This made it way more fun than it normally would be. All of the tips and tricks that I showed are valid, but there's got to be one more thing going on with this that's preventing it from proceeding. So I'm gonna get back to this a different day. But I bet you it's gonna be something like a BIOS setting or like a one Windows thing I forgot to install. But everything that we did here is sound, except figuring out what the one little thing is here. So I'll get to that. But you're all awesome. Thank you very much. Hopefully I could have this ready for Tito this weekend. But if not, I will ship it to him. And we'll talk to all of you awesome people soon.